think so the jury can see, I'll ask Mr. Simpson to stand. That's People 77. Sustain. This is People's 164A. Is that the right hand glove? All right. All right. Thank you, counsel.
And unravel the mysteries with Dark Crime Box. Subscribe now and step inside the world of true crime like never before.
The gates closed behind him with a sound that did not echo, because this place swallowed noise the way it swallowed men. Steel slid into steel, and with that single mechanical breath, the world O.J. Simpson once ruled disappeared forever. This was not a stadium. There were no cheers, no crowds chanting his name. This was Lovelock Correctional Center in Nevada. Dry, isolated, unforgiving, where the desert presses in on concrete walls and time moves differently. Here, fame carried no protection. Here, reputation could become a weapon turned inward. Or, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were found brutally murdered outside a Brentwood condominium. The crime scene was violent beyond description. Blood, chaos. Evidence scattered in the open air of a wealthy Los Angeles trail included blood samples, a slow-speed police chase watched by millions, and a prosecution that believed the case was airtight. But the trial did not hinge only on evidence. It hinged on trust for the deaths. Public opinion hardened. And behind the scenes, rumors fermented, whispers about law enforcement failures, racial bias, evidence contamination, and whether the full truth of that investigation would ever be known. Some believed justice had been denied. Others believed the system had exposed itself. But prison would not come for him because of that case. It came years later, quietly, unglamorously, through a Las Vegas hotel room in 2007, where Simpson led a group of men into an armed confrontation over sports memorabilia he claimed was stolen from him. Guns were present. Threats were made. Lines were crossed. This time, there was no celebrity shield. Convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping, O.J. Simpson was sentenced to up to 33 years in prison. The judge showed no leniency. The courtroom felt none. And now, inside Lovelock, the man once nicknamed the Juice had to learn new rules. The unwritten ones that mattered more than any handbook. Prison does not care about past verdicts. It does not debate innocence. It only reacts to reputation. Guards watched him closely, not out of respect but risk management. High-profile inmates bring lawsuits, media attention, and complications. Some officers kept their distance. Others enforced rules rigidly, knowing any perceived favoritism could spark violence. Among inmates, reactions varied. Some avoided him entirely, unwilling to associate with a man tied to such infamy. Others tested boundaries with stares, proximity, silent pressure. Prison violence rarely begins loudly. It begins with positioning. Protection was not automatic. In prison, you earn safety through alignment, discipline, and silence. Simpson kept to himself. He was inmate 1027820, a man among men, a symbol in a world that did not care about football glory, fame, or public opinion. The prison's walls were unforgiving. Concrete corridors echoed with the shuffle of boots and the occasional shouted command. Every step, every glance, every conversation was measured. In prison, even silence carried meaning. Simpson quickly realized that the unwritten rules were not written anywhere. but their consequences were immediate and absolute. Rule 1. Do not appear weak. Rule 2. Know who watches you. Rule 3. Reputation precedes reality. He was watched constantly, not only by guards who maintained a careful balance between authority and detachment, but by inmates whose eyes followed his every move. Some saw opportunity, a famous man they could manipulate, challenge, or exploit. Others saw danger, a man whose name carried blood, scandal, and notoriety. Guards treated high-profile inmates differently, both out of caution and necessity, anticipating and enduring. Strength alone was insufficient. Cunning, patience, and emotional control were just as critical. Over time, he adapted. Exercise became ritual. Reading became focus. Conversations were measured. Simpson learned which alliances were safe, which questions to avoid, and how to move through the prison ecosystem without drawing unnecessary attention. He became disciplined, calculating, and watchful, a man whose daily existence depended on anticipation and perception. Yet even adaptation did not erase fear. Threats persisted in subtle forms. A lingering stare during meal lines, hushed discussions in nearby cells, rumors carried on the wings. Simpson's awareness of history, of public perception, and of his own notoriety became a shield and a burden. Every day was survival, every interaction a test. The guards remained a mixed presence. Some treated him with distant respect, others with suspicion, a reminder that in prison, authority can be as unpredictable as inmate behavior. He observed routines, learned the patterns of patrols, and noted how power shifted subtly depending on mood, incident, or rumor. By the end of the first months, Simpson had constructed. Inmates whispered his name in hushed tones, measured his steps in the cafeteria, and tested his reactions with subtle provocations. Every glance carried meaning, every comment was weighed, and every move could signal weakness or strength. He quickly learned that threats rarely came in obvious forms. They arrived in silence, a shadow lingering too long, a chair placed strategically in the recreation yard, a seemingly casual question meant to gauge confidence. Simpson understood that, in this environment, perception could kill. It was not long before those perceptions escalated into open confrontation. One incident, reported in news outlets covering his incarceration, involved a physical altercation in the prison yard. Details are limited, but witnesses described a tense standoff. Simpson surrounded, challenged over territory, forced to defend his presence without provoking lethal retaliation. He did not rely solely on physicality. A lifetime of discipline, athleticism, and mental focus became survival tools. He positioned himself strategically, anticipating movements, observing body language, and calculating outcomes. Guards intervened at the last moment, but the psychological impact lingered. The fight was a reminder that in prison, a single misstep could have permanent consequences. Isolation became a routine part of survival. Temporary confinement after incidents was designed not only for security, but as a test of endurance. Hours stretched into days, walls closing in, silence pressing in on all sides. Simpson described the experience in interviews as mentally grueling, a place where reflection collided with fear, and where past actions felt magnified. But survival demanded adaptation. He learned the unwritten hierarchy, noting which inmates could be allies, which were threats, and which were neutral. He mastered routines, exercise for strength and mental clarity, reading for escape from monotony, measured interactions for safety. He observed patterns in guards' behavior, understanding that authority could shift based on circumstance, rumor, or mood. Prison life forged a new identity. Not O.J. the celebrity, not O.J. the athlete, but O.J. the careful observer. A man who understood that the world inside the walls was unforgiving, meticulous, and often silent until violence erupted. He survived by being invisible and visible at once, present enough to avoid suspicion, withdrawn enough to deter confrontation. The public's fascination followed him even here. Media coverage, documentaries, and rumors about his life and his past crimes continued to swirl outside. Inside, He was forced to reconcile the man he had been with the man he needed to become to endure each day. Even now, years later, Simpson describes this period as one of constant calculation. Each day demanded attention, each interaction carried risk, and the lessons of endurance became ingrained. His notoriety, once a shield, had become a lens through which every inmate and officer interpreted him. Yet, in this crucible, he survived. Not through aggression, not through defiance, but through discipline, awareness, and patience. The brutal moments, the whispered threats, and the long nights in isolation taught lessons that no courtroom or public debate could impart. Prison, in its starkest form, is a test of human instinct, and Simpson adapted, step by step, day by day, becoming a survivor in a world that recognized neither fame nor innocence. Through it all, the outside world remained a constant echo. The memory of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, the trial that shocked a nation, the debate over guilt, and the questions surrounding the investigation. Even behind concrete walls, those shadows lingered. Survival was not just about navigating men and authority, but also about living with the weight of history, notoriety, and relentless public scrutiny. Prison forged a harsh truth. Adaptation, patience, and calculated awareness can sustain life, but they cannot erase the past. And in a place where every day carries the potential for violence, Simpson learned that survival is both physical and psychological, a balance maintained by instinct, observation, and self-restraint. If you want to continue unraveling the hidden truths, the harsh realities, and the untold experiences of high-profile inmates marked by territory disputes, whispered threats, or misunderstandings, each encounter reinforced the lessons of observation, patience, and self-control. Isolation, while punishing, became a place to reflect and rebuild mental resilience. He learned to recognize patterns in behavior, both of inmates and of staff, using them to anticipate danger and avoid unnecessary conflict. Beyond the walls, his past loomed large. The murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, the televised trial, and the continuing public debate about his guilt or innocence remained a shadow over every day. Inmates and guards alike knew his name, and its weight shaped interactions constantly. Survival depended not only on adapting to the prison environment, but also on enduring the psychological burden of notoriety. Through it all, Simpson became a study in endurance. Life behind bars taught him that survival was less about aggression and more about patience, observation, and self-discipline. The routines he established, exercise, reading, strategic social interactions, became lifelines. The quiet, relentless pressure of prison forged a man who had once been untouchable in the public eye into someone profoundly cautious, methodical, and aware of every nuance in his surroundings. And yet, despite adaptation, the lessons of prison came with a dark reflection. No amount of discipline could erase the past, silence public scrutiny, or undo the consequences of history. In this world, even a man as famous as O.J. Simpson was just another inmate, subject to the same rules, threats, and unyielding reality of confinement. It is a story of survival, of notoriety turned into vulnerability, and of the human capacity to endure even when every day presents new hazards. And it leaves one haunting question for viewers. Can a life defined by fame, controversy, and tragedy ever truly find peace?